Welcome. You're listening to Literacy Now, the official podcast for the nonprofit organization Parents for Reading Justice, and I am your host, Brett Tingley. Hi, we're excited to have Donna Hejtmanek here with us today on the podcast. She's a retired special ed teacher and reading specialist of 41 years. I can't believe you look much younger than that.
Thank you.
From Wisconsin, so she's a good Midwestern girl like myself. Right now, she's spending her retirement advocating for dyslexia legislation and administering the Facebook group, Science of Reading, What I Should Have Learned in College. It's got 175,000 followers, so you are a big player in this. We're really excited to have you. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our audience about what you're up to right now?
Well, I spend my days a good amount of time doing this, but it's so worth it because I'm seeing the momentum growing. I'm really excited about all the changes that are happening in the SOR community, and we are really just trying to keep the group growing and forming teachers and parents and researchers that join our group, administrators. It's just been it's almost surreal when I think about what's happening. I had no intention of planning. This was not a planned event. In fact, if you've heard my story, I didn't know what a Facebook group was. 3 years ago, I started the group, and it was a complete just happenstance because I was frustrated. I didn't work for them, I volunteered for the Wisconsin International Dyslexia Association, and part of my duties as legislative chair was to do testimony. And so we were promoting a dyslexia bill at the time that had lots and lots of opposition. And I remember testifying in front of the Senate Education Committee, and I said to them, I'm going to write a book one day, and it's going to be called The Science of Reading, What I Should Have Learned in College. And because I'm very frustrated with the schools of education here, I had just finished my reading specialist degree, and I know what they were teaching, and it wasn't the science of reading. And that was back in 2014. So certainly, the science was out. The science should have been infused in education programming, and it was not. And so one Tuesday day, I think it was August 14th of 2019, I started this group, and it's just grown exponentially. And I'm so proud of it. Mm-hmm. And I have my moderators who are just dedicated workers that are there every day, and we check it, and we promote good things, we promote good training. So it's been an exciting journey for me.
Yeah, we were sitting at dinner last night. We're out in LA for the premiere of The Truth About Reading. It's so exciting.
Yes, it is.
So we were out by the pool at the Hilton, and your phone was just blowing up with all of the... So it's got to be hard to... So how did you get to this number? Like 175,000 people is a ton of people in such a short time. Mm-hmm. How did it grow?
Well, I'm thinking that the thirst is there. Teachers want to know. No teacher goes into their classroom feeling like, I'm going to fail these kids and I'm okay with that. Yeah. Teachers are just giving human beings who really want the best for their kids. And so when they don't have that opportunity, when they don't have the skills to get every student in their class to where they need to be, they feel defeated and they feel like they're failures. And so those are the people that are coming to the group, complete novices. They have no idea, and they say so. I don't know anything about the science of reading. Is this the science of reading? Because they just don't know. So we're trying to provide them with that information. And I think, to answer your question, I think what happens is it's that snowball effect. They just say, okay, I'm on this site, and then they tell their friends, and their friends tell their friends, and it goes on and on. So that's what's happening.
How did you, because your background is education, mm-hmm. I think it's interesting to understand how you found the science of reading if none of the colleges are teaching it. What was your independent little path to find the science?
Good question. So back in the late 80s, I believe it was, I took an Orton Gillingham course that was out of Project Read out of Minnesota. That was my initial training. And it so changed my training, my ability to teach, and I had resources, and I had the skills that I lacked to teach kids to read. And so it was effective. So I was able to do that in an effective way and see results in kids. So that was back in the late 80s. So then, just life happens and everything. And then I moved to Wisconsin, and I didn't think they were doing that in Wisconsin, and they weren't. And so I became president. It's really easy to become president of a volunteer organization. You show up and you're president the next day. And so I became president of the Literacy Task Force of Northern Wisconsin and started infusing the teachings of the science of reading in my work and in the community. And then just grew from there.
And as an educator, a lot of educators I talk to have guilt, I couldn't help so many kids. How do you help educators not feel that and not resist for that reason?
Oh, that's so hard. Well, there's a lot of pushback. We have a lot of teachers who just don't know there's another way. And so there's resistance that way. When you're not learning this in college and you come out with a certain way to teach reading, and that's all you know, and you put your faith and trust in that, and then to be told 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road that there's another way, a better way, and you're going to resist that change because nobody likes to be wrong, and no one likes to admit that they may have failed kids, unintentionally, of course. And so, we try to be kind. In fact, our group rules are being kind, no shame, no blame, because we need to really reinforce that and make people feel welcomed. And we do that through a welcome letter. We try to really give the teachers the information they need from the get-go to start their journey.
Parents for Reading Justice is a nonprofit grassroots movement dedicated to ensuring every child learns to read by engaging parents and educators in adopting the science of teaching reading. Please watch our award-winning film, Our Dyslexic Children, take our master class, and to ensure all our services remain free of charge, please consider making a donation today, all at parentsforreadingjustice.org.
Our podcast is very focused on the parent. What we're trying to do is bring parents' voices to the conversation. And so you do have parents on your Facebook group. Do you have any feel for, how many or kind of what percentage of parents are accessing?
Actually, we did a survey, I believe it was in June, and we asked our membership how many, are you a teacher or are you a parent? And we had, I think we had 400 or 500 people that answered the survey. And it was surprising to me that only 2.3% are parents. And 13% are parents who are also teachers. So we have that. But 60% of our group are elementary school teachers. And the rest are miscellaneous speech and language, administrators, researchers, but a small group of parents. And that was intentional to include parents at the beginning. When I didn't know what I was doing, to set up this Facebook group, early on I realized, I remember parents saying, is this group for parents? And I never thought about it. So I said, sure, why not? Because you're part of the solution. And so we invited parents, and that was threatening for some of the teachers because they didn't want parents to know what they were struggling with, and but we're a team, right?
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Well, and by having the parents and the teachers on the same page, we can kind of be a full wraparound on a kid.
Absolutely. And that's what it takes. If parents are learning the science of reading alongside the teachers that are learning the science of reading, it's a team effort, and you can get more done in a shorter amount of time.
Well, and I think it's such a great Facebook group, because as parents come together and help to flip a district to the science of reading, because they didn't learn it in college, we need a place that we can send teachers who can learn the latest.
Exactly.
And you provide that for our teachers that we flip. What about colleges of education? Do you have any of those that are, I would think they might push back a little bit, because you're saying that teachers didn't learn this in college. How are you being received by?
Well, I sometimes get people saying, I really don't like the name of your group, and I say, well, it is a little demeaning, and it's derogatory in a sense, and kind of snarky, but it's the truth. And I know this for a fact. Even in the teens, the 20 teens, I had to go back and get my certification to be a reading specialist, because I was only certified for special education. So I go back and I start my first course, and it's basically, and this was through a UW University, Wisconsin University, State University, and it was basically a reading recovery course. And so I shared that with one of my comrades who shared it with our Department of Public Instruction, who then shared it with the School of Education that I was taking this course through. And I got a call from the head of the program that lasted an hour, and it was basically a screaming match, and her asking me to leave the program. So it's hard to believe, I know. It actually happened. My husband, I remember him walking into the room, and he goes, "Who is that?" And so what I wound up doing, I said, I will not leave your program. There's no other place to go. I need this certification. But you can bet my name was blacklisted for the whole program. At the end, I remember talking to one of my professors, and she said, "You know more about reading than I do." I said, "Well, I'm happy you feel that way." So is change coming with professors and researchers, schools of education? We are hoping. And in fact, that's kind of been one of my thinking lately, because the name of our group is so geared at college, and really getting that shift happening at the college level. I'm trying to think of ways that I can make that happen on a more national level, because we are very influential. Our group is influential. We have the numbers. We have the teachers that are frustrated. I keep a list of accolades, and so many of them are frustrated teachers that never learned this, and so they share their joy in being here and their frustration of having to be here.
Well, and we talked about this last night at dinner, but as a parent, when you go into these meetings and you're trying to get reading help for your kid, you think the teachers are hiding this really good instruction from you, that they know how to teach kids to read. And what you realize is they don't have any idea. They never learned it in college. Right. And so what we talked about was that actually parents and teachers are on the same team, because Absolutely. We have both been robbed by colleges of education, which is where the science should be learned and taught. That's where it should be going on. And because they are not keeping up with the science, because they're antiquated, our children are suffering, And teachers are paying money for a degree that doesn't help them teach kids how to read.
There's no argument there, absolutely. And that was my frustration. I paid $7,000 for that certification and it was worthless. However, it served me well when I had to testify because I knew exactly what our schools of education were not doing. And so I am working, I've started a cohort with schools of higher ed of those who are willing to come to the table to talk about this. And it's been interesting. In fact, one of the school districts that I was consulting with, she got a flyer from one of our UW schools, and the flyer was, "Oh, come join our 316, which is the entry gateway course for to get reading certification." And so the special ed director, she says, "Is this an SOR program?" I said, "Let me check the credentials on the instructor." Well, if it was a reading recovery trained instructor. So I said, "No, it's not." And she goes, "Oh, I said, "What can we do about this?" She goes, "I'm gonna call them and tell them I refuse to send any teachers to their program." Well, 2 years later, I am working deeply with this university who is making shifts, big shifts in their instruction. They're taking training to make them better instructors. And it takes to have a relationship with people, because she was not happy with me when our first few discussions. I'm very resistant, but things have shifted, and it's because we built relationships. And again, no blame, no shame. We're here for the kids. Let's get on the same page. What can we do? What can I share with you? And so I just kept sharing information about the science, and it took a year, and then the relationship started growing, right?
Mm-hmm. We had kind of a similar, well, as a parent group, I think that we have leverage as well. So once we came together, flipped our district, and began working in collaboration with our district administration, we took in our administration to the College of Education that is closest to us. And I decided that if I go in, I could take Louisa Moats, the foremost authority on reading instruction in the country, and I could say, "You two figure it out." And she'd say, "Science reading is the way to go." And they'd say, "Well, my PhD says no." Mm-hmm. And that would be a standoff. But if I go in with a school district and I say, or they say, I didn't say anything, they say, "We're no longer using reading recovery.
Yes.
And we are not hiring from you anywhere near what we used to be. We want to work with you. We want to partner with you, but we need to have some of these more current, the science to be taught before we can do that. Because we are having to provide professional development once your graduates come to us, and it's too costly." And right after, and I gave them Seidenberg's book, again, just trying to open the door and let them know this is coming. You want to get on the front end of this. Now that was right before COVID hit. And I have yet to start up that, because I have several other districts that we're going to do the same thing with and provide feedback. But I think there's kind of again, some synergies between what teachers can do and what parents can do, because we are the ultimate customer of their product. If my kid can't read, they're not doing their job, and we can bring the market forces to bear.
And that's what it is. I mean, we have to work together. There has to be a realization that not good things are happening in the classroom. So that is a direct result of the training that is happening pre-service. And so we need to get those teachers and those professors aligned with pedagogy that is aligned with the science. And I've heard that too, what you said about, "Oh, I'm a PhD, I don't need to do that." And when we're not willing to change or be open to change, or even be curious about that, you just limit your growth, your personal growth. I was just listening to a podcast by Adam Grant, and he talked about that, growth. And it all occurs by having an open mind and listening to others, because if you don't, then you can't personally grow. And I see that with our educators. If you can't say, well, I've never thought of it that way, or I never knew about that, or you don't have that curiosity, then you can't personally grow or professionally grow.
Well, and I maybe it was Socrates, but the more you know you don't know.
Oh,
and there's a
sure.
certain humility in that that I sometimes find lacking. Another thing that's interesting to me about your work is that, so we get parents together at a district level to affect change, to flip a district specifically to the science of reading. But then once we do that, then we encourage parent groups to come together like on a statewide level. So we have an organization in Ohio, OH Kid, and we have a sister group in Colorado, Colorado Kid. We're working in Illinois, and you're having a science of reading in every state.
In every state.
So how did you do that?
About a year and a half, maybe sooner, into the growth that was just, it just was exponential. And so I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have a state Facebook group for every state or every province or every country that wanted one? So again, the power of social media, I posted, I said, hey, anyone interested? We're gonna get together on Sunday morning, and I'm going to record it, and I'm gonna show you how I started my Facebook group, because we're a different, we're what's classified as a social learning group. So we can archive the posts and the files. So a normal Facebook group, you wouldn't be able to do that, but we're a learning community. That's what it's billed as. So we had, I don't know, maybe 30 people show up, and I said, I really would like you to say science of reading, what I should have learned in college, or Wisconsin science of reading, what I should have learned in college, or Michigan science of reading, because I wanted this to become a brand name, because there's power in numbers, and there's power in familiarity with the name and what it can deliver. Some states couldn't do that because they were afraid of the pushback and the resistance. So I'm like, I don't care, call it what you want, but there's power in us being together and talking and collaborating together. So I believe we have almost every state. How active those Facebook groups are, I couldn't tell you, but I believe it's really helped the movement. It's very much like the Reading League, who has their state chapters, but ours is free. So there's no money involved, it's just the willingness to do the work. And so I think that'd be a great idea for your parents.
Well, and I think that you're exactly right. We have seen over and over again, because I think there's so many people in this space doing things like in a silo.
Yes.
And I meet people all over the country doing amazing, amazing, amazing things, but they're by themselves, just working. When we can all learn from one another, we can use the same format, the same structure, and get them up and running much more quickly. And then, as you said, when you band together, you really do have a lot more leverage. So when you get a seat at the table. Yeah. And so I think that is what we're going to do.
I think
you've inspired me.
Oh, good. I think that's a great idea. There's having that name is that familiarity, and it just sparks this. It's kind of like the decoding dyslexia thing, that's how they started, and it just took off. And this can also work this way, for sure. Absolutely.
Well, we're excited. Thank you. So as we conclude, do you have, this podcast is really aimed at parents. So do you have any advice that you would give to parents? What do you think?
You are your child's advocate, so you need to you need to be educated, you need to have the knowledge so you can support your child. If your gut is telling you something's wrong, I always say go with your gut and that there's something is wrong. And not to just be aware that there's lots and lots of resources, social media that can help you. There's a lot of people out there that can help you. You just need to find who they are and reach out to them and make the call or make that email, and help is just an email away, really. And you got to help your kids. You're the one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Literacy Now is a podcast designed specifically for parents in our effort to ensure every child learns to read. Parents deserve a seat at the table, and we bring their voices to the fore. We invite you to join the Parents for Reading Justice community on all of our socials, and make sure to visit our website to watch our documentary and to take our masterclass. All of our content is free of charge because every child deserves to learn to read. This episode was brought to you by parentsforreadingjustice.org, produced by Brett Tingley and Kita Mascaro.